Hello guys, Crispy here and welcome back to another video. It's my friends, we're going to be testing the GeForce RTX 3060 Ti in Spider-Man Miles Morales. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers at the time of recording this video, and I'm not overclocking it. You can see all of its specs here in Tech Power-Ups GPU-Z, and over on the left we're pairing it with a Ryzen 7 5800X 3D and 32GB of RAM to avoid CPU bottlenecks. Let's get into it, shall we? First of all, let's go over the settings. I'm playing at 1080p using DLAA first, but I'm also going to test it out using DLAA. SMA looks worse than TAA in this game, and DLAA looks better, but it's way more intensive than TAA. So starting off like this, and the very high settings without ray tracing, let's go. Jesus Christ, what the hell? It was hitting 200 frames per second. By the way, this game has no ultra settings preset. Very high is the maximum preset. You could increase manually like a couple of more settings, but it overall gets around the same FPS, and it looks the same as well. So I'm using the preset here just to make things consistent. And this is amazing, guys. I'm gonna start counting the frames as well. Wow! Now checking out the Central Park area, which is a super GPU intensive area in the game, basically the most GPU intensive area. It's still not dropping too much. Look at this. What the hell? Like, it drops into the 110s, 120s at times. But that's about it. 3060 Ti at 1080p. What a beast, guys. Whoa. Okay, then. That's crazy. Is DLSS enabled or something? Because this is way too good. No, it's disabled. As you can see, TAA is enabled. Alright then, very high settings. Yeah, no ray tracing. Okay. Alright, I'm amazed at this point. If you have a 1080p monitor, a 3060 Ti is more than enough for this game, as you can see. Let's just check out the other street, which is also super intensive in this game. Look at the reflections there. Yes, they're not ray traced reflections, but they still look pretty decent. If you don't pixel peep, they're still really good looking, And yeah, 150s, 140s. Wow. Thing is, you don't need a high refresh rate experience in a single player title like this one, but hey, it's already maxed out almost without RT. So just enjoy it like this, I guess. This is why I say that this is still a pretty capable 1440p GPU, guys. Because it definitely is. If it's getting these FPS at 1080p, it will still deliver an amazing experience at 1440. Now here with these smoke effects and all of these people around us, still not dropping. Yeah, it's above 100 FPS 100% of the time at 1080p. You won't have a problem with this card. Just make sure that you have a fast CPU to go with it, because otherwise you will bottleneck it, of course. But that's not my problem. I'm testing the GPU here, okay? Anyway, bumping it up to DLAA, which is not DLSS, okay? This is just implementing the sharpening of DLSS and the anti-aliasing, basically, of DLSS without the upscaling. It's definitely way more intensive. 90s now. I'm wondering though, do I need to restart the game for DLAA? Alright, now after a restart with DLAA enabled, yeah, it's still pretty much the same thing, isn't it? Around 110 to 120 around here, some drops into the lower 100s, 90s here. Those averages are actually higher, so I think we will need to restart every single time we make a change in the settings menu. That's a little bit of a bummer. Yeah, it's actually a higher refresh rate experience right now. Still dropping though. Okay, anyways, we need to enable some DLSS next. Let's go. DLSS on quality. I don't recommend you to go below quality at 1080p. This is really not needed, honestly, guys, because it was already an amazing experience without DLSS, and I'm just gonna restart to fully apply. This is it, guys. DLSS quality at 1080p resolution using the very high settings. And it is performing pretty well, not really dropping around the trees, Look at that. Really high FPS even here. I think, yeah, it's definitely performing a little bit, just slightly better than native resolution with TAA. And it's looking, again, between the two of them, between TAA and DLAA. It's not as detailed or as sharp as DLAA was, but it's not as soft as TAA was. So it's a good balance, and you get tons of FPS. But I don't know, I think maybe DLAA or TAA is the way to go for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't like the look of DLSS. So then you will choose TAA, and a lot of people prefer the sharpness. And in that case, since there's not really a major difference in gameplay in a single-player title like this one, maybe go with DLAA, you know, because these are just insane FPS at this point. If you like insane FPS, I mean, just go for DLSS. It still looks amazing. In my opinion, it looks better than TAA. But again, a lot of people don't feel the same way as I do, and that's completely fine. So around here, okay, finally we are seeing some fluctuation there on the GPU usage. Still not enough to call it like a CPU bottleneck, you know, but it is, yeah, it's fluctuating. 160, oh, it was 169 FPS on average there. Not anymore, though. Yeah, at 1080p, this GPU just wrecks this game completely. So let's go ahead and set it to 2560 by 1440. Disable the DLSS and enable TAA. Also, if you enable DLSS, this setting is disabled. So, yep, we weren't using like DLAA and DLSS at the same time. What am I doing here? Let's go. Apply that. TAA at 1440p should look really good. Just gonna restart the game again. Oh, this is good, guys. Look at that, 100 FPS there. Really good stuff. Oh boy. See why I say this is a really good 1440p GPU? Because it really is. Yes, it's not super high refresh rate like it was at 1080p, but in my opinion, in a single player title like this one, it's definitely worth having that extra resolution that comes with 1440p, because you can tell that it looks way better than like higher FPS, because you know, 80 plus FPS, which is essentially what we're getting here, it's dropping into the 80s down there, is buttery smooth on a high refresh rate monitor anyways. So this is awesome. And of course that TAA won't really look as soft at 1440p as well, so that's also a very good bonus there. And we're getting 100 FPS average still. It looks insanely good like this. Wow. And yes, you don't need ray tracing and all of that stuff to make the game look pretty. It looks a little bit better with RT enable in some occasions, but it wrecks performance, so I will probably test ray tracing for a little bit at the end of this video with DLSS, because that's the only way it's going to be playable on a 3060 Ti. But again, where this shines the most is obviously without RT. I think I'd leave RT just for like the 3080 and above in this game at least. We're here now, and we're getting the same FPS as the park area. This is a pretty intensive area in the city, you know. Like, if you're swinging around these parallel streets, or perpendicular streets to this one, yeah, it gets more FPS than in that particular street right there. Maybe down here, yeah, since we are seeing a few trees as well, it's a little bit more intensive. But overall, I like to test it in the other one, because there's a lot of people walking around, a lot of detail, and of course there is some smoke in the ground, which I will check out right now. Oh my god, Spider-Man. He was like upside down there. Anyway, you saw there, it drops into the 70s with the smoke effects. Not a problem though, it's really smooth, very playable indeed, 100 FPS average, nothing to worry about if you have a 1440p monitor with this card. I'm still glad I recommended this GPU for 1440p gaming. I'm gonna try some DLAA first. We gotta restart the game, of course. Look at that, it still goes over 100 FPS at times, but I think most of the time it will be below 100, and we will probably get averages around like 90, or yeah, I think 90 is pretty accurate, since we're getting like closer to 80 frames down here. Yeah, it's pretty good though, not gonna lie. Still really nice. And over in the park area, it's not really dropping that much. DLAA, it makes trees not that intensive in this game, which is pretty interesting. As well as DLSS, but of course DLSS is running at a lower resolution and upscaling it, so yeah, it's less intensive, obviously. Also, DLSS at 1440p looks awesome on quality. Back when I had a 1440p monitor, I was enabling it all of the time with the 3060 Ti, because it was my main GPU at the time. And it looked amazing. When the games had it, I just enabled it. It looked almost like native resolution. Slightly different, but it's not in a bad way. It's not like you lowered the resolution. You know, it's just a little bit of a different look. It's like, what, a 7 FPS hit to performance by enabling DLAA here at 1440p, which still makes it look and feel pretty damn smooth. You know, you can still use the better implementation of AA in this game, and it won't really drop from 70 frames per second. Oh, never mind, it actually is dropping from 70, 65 right there. Maybe in like some more intensive cutscenes and stuff like that, it might drop from 60. But I mean, 90 FPS on average is pretty comfortable. I wouldn't really worry about it, honestly, guys. It's really good like this still. Very smooth. I like it. But now let's test it out with DLSS on quality. Apply that. Oh, yes. I wouldn't really use like balanced here. Balanced still looks really good at 1440p, honestly, but there's no need. This is buttery smooth. If you want that high refresh rate experience, you can still have it. Look at that. Oh, yeah, it's dropping into like the lower 100s, or at least it dropped to that. Okay, come on, Spidey. Why didn't you use your webs, like, right there in that building? I don't understand. Okay, let's go. Continuing. That sunset looks amazing, guys. Absolutely beautiful, this lighting. And it starts like this, by the way. I haven't played a single mission in this game. But it's good that we can just swing around, see the FPS, you know, without spoiling anything to you guys. Look at that, 130s. How crazy is that? 120s, okay, closer to 100 now. But isn't it getting around the same FPS as native 1080p with TAA? I think it is. All right, moving on from that area, we're back into like the 140s. And another thing is, I'm not really swinging around the top of the buildings, but you do get more FPS around there, because you don't really need to render all of that detail on the ground. I'm just near the ground, so it's more intensive, right? Yeah, hundreds around here, lower 100s, not a problem. If you remember, we got like 140 FPS here at 1080p using TAA, and we're getting 131. So that's pretty similar. Once again, look at that. Really good. Let's see it in the smoke effect, and it doesn't even drop from 100 FPS, guys. This is amazing. I think this is exactly how I'd play this game, guys. Either this or native 1440p with TAA. Not with DLAA at this resolution, because it got really close to 60. And I'm afraid it will actually drop from 60 with those settings. But you know what? This looks fantastic. And it runs fantastic. 3060 Ti, what an amazing card. Let's play it a little bit at 4K. Can it handle this massive resolution? Let's find out. TAA, here we go. That is crazy. It's pretty good. You know, it's not how I'd play this game for sure, unless you pair this with a 4K TV or something and you play with a controller. Yeah, then I could see myself playing like this. Not too bad of an experience. Doesn't even drop into the 30s, I believe. Look at that, even near the streets, it's dropping barely from 60 FPS. But you can start feeling that difference in smoothness, that's for sure, guys. Yeah, I wouldn't really do this near the trees. It gets really intensive. 40s, okay. Mid 40s now. 55 FPS average with a 3060 Ti at 4K. This is not a GPU made for 4K gaming. Of course, you can play some games at 4K, but it's targeted at 1080p or 1440p, not this. Yet it still gets 60 FPS around this area now. That is amazing. It's really smooth. Sometimes, when it's not dropping. Oh, wow, what the hell? I am impressed. Now let's check out that smoke. It should get wrecked here, I think. Not really. 45. Okay, cars and smoke effects at the same time just wrecks everything, as you can see. 43. Maybe it's like the reflections on the cars or the shadows on the cars, I don't know. So it drops into the lower 40s, basically, in worst case scenario, at least in the open world. Again, in cutscenes, it can drop further than that. I'm very impressed. We still got some DLSS, you know. what if we test it with DLSS on balanced? Because on balanced at 4K it looks really good, okay? It is now pretty decent, isn't it? I mean, it might be slightly running out of VRAM right now, because sometimes you can see little variation in the frame time graph. But overall, it's a really nice experience. Not gonna lie, I could play like this all day long. It's still above 60 FPS at 4K balanced DLSS. It looks sharp and detailed. Again, if it looks too sharp, which I honestly feel like it is to me right now, I'm using a 4K monitor for this, and it looks a little bit over sharpened. You can adjust that sharpening filter with DLSS, so that's great. And yeah, it doesn't really affect FPS, by the way, so I'm not gonna touch that right now, because otherwise we would need to restart the counting system, and it would take a lot longer. But anyway, it looks great still. In terms of detail, it's really good. There are like very minor shimmery edges. I can't really notice any right now, which is really impressive, because there are a ton of windows here and finer details, maybe right there, you know, in front of us, in those windows right there. It was a little bit shimmery, but not a problem, honestly, guys. Look at that. Still not shimmery. What the hell? Okay, anyway. It's really good. It's really good like this. Touching 100 FPS at times. If I didn't tell you that this was 4K balanced DLSS, very high settings preset, you probably wouldn't say that the 3060 Ti is running it at these settings in FPS, right? Because this is really nice. Let's see it in the smoke effect. Not a problem. Okay, going back to 1080p now. I turned off DLSS, and I'll turn on Ray Tracing. There we go. Ray Traced reflections are now enabled. Let's set the Ray Traced shadows as well to very high. And that's it. Very high settings, very high ray tracing at 1080p resolution, getting less FPS than at 4K native, but of course we need to restart it to fully apply things. Swinging around these buildings in the initial part of the mission, not a problem. 80s. I'm actually a little bit impressed by that, because this is still native resolution with ray tracing. That's not bad for a 3060 Ti, guys. What about around here? Ooh, yeah, okay, it's dropping now. It's dropping because of those ray-traced shadows in this particular scenario. There are no ray-traced reflections, but the shadows are all being ray-traced in all of these trees, and it just wrecks performance, of course. We've seen the same thing with the 4080 that I tested yesterday. RT here just is really, really intensive. Still not unplayable, but it's far from what we experienced so far without RT. Yeah, it's a little bit rough in the edges, but at least we got 69 on average there, so we can't really complain about anything. That's beautiful. Oh, yes. We still gotta check it out near the smoke effects with the cars and stuff. I believe it's gonna drop tremendously there. Get over here. Oh, dropping 50s, not too terrible, honestly. Yeah, just swinging around the cars and stuff. Come on, come on, stop, 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 stop. 53 there, not a problem. You know, it's okay. I'm impressed. I just gotta say that I am impressed with these FPS, but of course we need that DLSS to make things right. Wow, that's a bit impressive. If you want ray tracing and if you have a 1080p monitor, this might be the way to go. Because again, it will look a little bit better than the normal very high settings without RT, and it's still well above 60. That's impressive. Wow. Okay then. 3060 Ti, it never fails to impress. Oh, take a look at that GPU usage, by the way. It's fluctuating now in the city. We are being CPU bottlenecked because ray tracing is also super CPU intensive in this game. Wow. 5800 S3D is bottlenecking at 3060 Ti, I can't believe it. That's awesome. What the hell? Okay. It's very playable like this. Oh, this is looking pretty promising still. Wow, okay. It's still a little bit CPU bound as well. What the heck? This is still very high settings, very high ray tracing and quality DLSS at 1440p. Look at that. That's crazy. It's still very playable. I really thought the 3060 Ti wasn't really capable of playing this game with ray tracing. I guess the game is just not really that intensive with these settings. It's still dropping from 60 FPS, by the way. So maybe you might want to drop the DLSS setting to balanced to achieve 60 plus all of the time. Ooh, that's a lot of stuttering there. Oh yeah, I told you we'd probably see that because it gets more VRAM bound here with ray tracing enabled. But yeah, once again, I wasn't expecting it to be this good of an experience with ray tracing enabled, and the 3060 Ti. It's pretty decent. Let's see it with the smoke effects. It will probably drop. Yeah, it's already dropping. Just slightly from 60. If you overclock the card a little bit, you might actually be able to achieve a couple of more FPS on average, or like 74 or something like that. And it might not drop anymore. Or maybe into like the high 50s worst case scenario, basically. Which is really damn nice, right? Damn! Alright, 3060 Ti. Lastly, we gotta take a look at this 4K balanced DLSS. Maximum settings, well, very high settings, maximum preset, using very high ray tracing. Oh my god, this is good. What? No way. Isn't it getting around the same FPS? Maybe a little bit worse than native resolution at 4K. That's impressive. Yeah, down here, of course, it gets wrecked a little bit, but wow. All right, I gotta stop saying that I'm impressed. But I really am. What the hell, bro? The 3080 Ti will probably be really playable at these settings. I will also check that out, of course, as well as the 6900 XT and 3070, which I don't usually test in the channel, but those will come as well. And just a little hint, you know, my friends will actually borrow me those GPUs. Oh my gosh, or lend me those GPUs. Yeah, it drops here. Never mind, guys. You should never do this. Basically, what's happening here, VRAM is completely saturated at this point. And at least it didn't happen at 1440p, which is a target resolution for this GPU. One of the target resolutions. So you can still play with ray tracing at 1440p. Just at 4K... it's not possible. And yes, VRAM is maxed out, even though it doesn't say 8 GB of usage right there in the on-screen display. You can see that the RAM utilization is going up a lot compared to the previous settings that we tested so far. So that means that the VRAM is actually maxed out and it's starting to use system RAM to offload those textures to and other effects that use VRAM. And this happens. RAM goes up, VRAM it's not maxed out because the game just doesn't really use all of it for some reason. It probably has a target, like Call of Duty Warzone 2. You can actually set the target in Warzone 2 to whatever value you want, like 80% of your VRAM, 90% of your VRAM. Yeah, I think that's what's going on here. It just gets wrecked, basically. It's not a good experience. I was pretty impressed there at the beginning, but... okay. We finally put the 3060 Ti to its knees. But it took ray tracing, 4K, DLSS balanced, which is insane. And that's been it, my friends. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back today with a 1050 Ti in this game, and tomorrow with 22 GPUs in Warzone 2. So stay tuned in. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.